This is a 1998 Mercedes E320 that I just picked up down in Fort Myers, Florida yesterday. I saw it online and I watched it for a week or two. But it was a little bit far. I'm up in Jacksonville, Florida, so it was a little bit far away. But I kept watching it, and I called and talked to the guy, and he kept saying, "You won't find a better one, you won't find a nicer one in this condition. You ought to come down and look at it." Well, I've heard that from a lot of people that I've talked to in looking for these cars, so I didn't really put much stock in what he was saying. But yesterday I went and looked at two or three other cars, and they were junk. Basically, the interiors were trashed. They had dents and some rust and things that were not represented in the photos that they put online. And when I called and talked to them, they didn't tell me about, so I didn't spend much time looking at them. I moved on. But we were down in Tampa, and we looked at one, and it was just garbage. So it was like, hey, well, 2 hours from Fort Myers, we'll just run on down there and see what this guy's got. And if it's not, we'll have dinner and come back and call it a day. But got down there about 4 o'clock in the afternoon yesterday, and the car was sitting out there. And when I pulled in, I saw it, and I thought, oh my God, finally one that's in good shape. And I knew before I got out of my car to go look at it that I was going to buy it, because you could just tell that it had been taken care of. It's a 1998 with 104,000 miles on it. So it was driven about 4,700, a little over 4,700 miles a year. And apparently garaged most of that time, because the car was purchased up in the Northeast, up around New York, I believe the guy said. And spent a year or two up there, and then the owner brought it down to Fort Myers, and that's where it's been ever since. But this thing is clean. The headlights are a little bit hazed, but they're not yellowed. They may have been worked on and cleaned before, but they're in good shape. The only flaw on the outside of the car, I'm not sure you can see it, there's a tiny little rock dent right there. And there was another one, I can't even see it now, but it's right here. And there's a tiny scratch, you probably can't even see it, but it runs right there, where a rock or something may have flew across there. But it has new Michelin tires on it. There are no door dings. I can't find any door dings in the body, and there's absolutely no rust. Got the sunroof, and everything works on it. The typical wear points on the interiors of these cars are just like brand new. Usually this thing cracks and breaks. Usually the color on the leather steering wheels are faded. Usually this center console is cracked, peeling, but not on this one. The only flaw is this slide out where you get in and out. It rubs there, pants and all rub that, and that's just surface. It hasn't worn through, so I can have that fixed. But I think I'm going to put seat covers, maybe, I know it's old-fashioned, but maybe some sheepskin seat covers over it just to protect it. It kind of fits with the air of this car. But there are no cracks. Normally you see cracks in this leather here. It's nothing. It's very soft. You can tell they've kept it oiled, and it's good shape. Has plastic on the original carpets. These brown rugs were put in by the guy I bought the car from. They're not original to the car, but they are brand new, so it's kind of a funky color, but they'll work until I can get something else. But on a 1998 car, you won't find one any cleaner than that. I mean, that is absolutely perfect. And when I drove it yesterday back from Fort Myers up to Jacksonville, we were running about 70, 75 on the freeway. And it felt like the car just come from the factory. I mean, the suspension is tight. What's really neat about these W210s is they're the last of the old Mercedes that still feel like the old Mercedes. And what I mean is when you're running down the highway, there's just enough give in the suspension that you get a little bit of a floaty feel, which makes it a very comfortable ride. That Blue Tech over there, I've got it for sale, but I can't get used to the ride of that thing. If you're on the highway in a very smooth freeway ride, it's superb. You won't find a better riding car than that. But the instant you get road cracks or bumps or anything like that, that thing will beat you to death. And that's what all cars are riding like these days. I mean, they don't have much travel in the suspension anymore. But this car and that S500 right there, the W140, these things still have the old school ride. And that's what I want to get back to. I'm really not impressed with they're nice cars. The newer Mercedes are really nice cars. They're very expensive and they don't hold their value anymore. But I much prefer these older ones. And listen how solid this door is. I mean, they just don't, the new ones, they're not built like that anymore. These doors are fairly heavy. They got a good weight to them. But look at that leather interior. You just don't find this anymore on a 22-year-old car. I mean, it's in perfect shape. When you walk around and you can't visually see anything wrong with them, that's pretty good, because most of them are rusted and dented and not taken care of. In the trunk here, it has the original Goodyear tire. It's never been out of the trunk. You can still see the striping on the rubber. And the original toolkit is there. The jack. The CD changer still works. And again, I mean, just look how tight this is. So, 1998 E320 in almost perfect shape. You know, if you ever find an old Mercedes like this with low miles and a clean history, you better pick it up if you like old Benzes, because it's getting harder and harder to find ones like this. I was actually going to buy a 2001 or 2002, you know, with the facelift, but I always like the square grille on these better, and I actually like the simplicity of it not having the body cladding at the bottom that the later version had. So I just like the simple look better. So I think I'll hang on to it. This will be my daily driver, although I'll probably just keep driving the truck because I won't want to put the miles on the Mercedes. But it'll be a great weekend car. And the gas mileage coming up last night from Fort Myers was just, it was up almost 30 miles per gallon, and we're running 70, 75. Just couldn't believe that I was driving a 22-year-old car. I mean, the thing felt like it come out of the factory. I've had a lot of Mercedes over the last 35, 36 years, and I've never had one, even my new one, that felt as good as that one does. And the debate I was having last night, we were talking about, I was like, you know, I think this thing actually drives better than this S500. This is a 1999. And it only had 117,000 miles when I bought it a couple of years ago. It's got about 144,000 now. And I've never had any issues with this car. I know people complain that the W140s are maintenance hogs and are expensive to repair. But the only thing I've ever done to it, I put some accumulators on the rear suspension because it's got a hydraulic suspension. Put those on there. That cost about $800. Had it done. Other than that, there's nothing wrong with this car. So I'm going to keep my two old ones, sell this newer Blue Tech. stick it in the garage. Thanks for watching.